City of Stevens Point Common Council meeting, recorded July 20th, 2020.
At 7 o'clock, I will call the regular Common Council meeting to order. Let's see, Marissa or Clerk Krockramer, could you please call the roll?
Sure can. Jennings.
Here.
Shore.
Here.
Nabel. Nabel.
Nabel was
Here.
on the special personnel committee meeting. She might have some technical difficulties, but I don't see her in this meeting yet.
Okay. Zarazua.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Slawinski. Slawinski. Kneebone.
Here.
Leek.
Here.
Dalton.
Here.
Fischler.
Here.
And Morrow.
Here.
Okay.
Nabel.
Was 9 present?
Nabel's here too.
Nabel. Okay.
Oh,
Thank
there
you.
we go. 10
Got
present,
this.
is that correct, Clerk?
10.
10 present, we do have a quorum, so we will continue. The next item on the agenda is the salute to the flag, and for those joining us, I'm going to change my virtual background to the American flag, and we'll begin the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
To the flag
of
of the United States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic
and
which stands
one nation,
A nation,
indivisible,
visible,
with
liberty and justice
for all.
for all.
Okay, thank you all. I'm going to keep my remarks as brief as possible. The county has been considering a mask mandate. They had a meeting of the health department or health committee, and they will be having an executive operations committee. President Johnson, I believe, serves on that committee. The meeting is August 5th, if I'm correct. And
That is correct.
thank you. And if anyone has comments in regards to it, one way or the other, I know it affects people differently. Citizens and business, there's an economic thing to think about. There's a health pandemic that we need to think about. The point that I want to stress is that we are not even close to leveling off on this. We all need to do our part to be responsible and to make sure that we keep ourselves and others as safe as possible. There's nothing that's foolproof, at least nothing that's even remotely attractive. So be careful out there. We also today, for a bit of good news, implemented our first public instrument downtown. We had a piano that was donated by one of the local citizens. We had someone donate materials and someone donate their time to paint it. And then we had one of our streets department employees make some brackets, and we mounted it to the bus depot stage. So we want to thank the streets employees and the people who were responsible for donating their time and energy to make this happen. I know it's going to get weatherized. There's going to be sun and it's going to be out of tune and it's going to get wet, but we do have some hand sanitizers down there. So as long as we can enjoy this, please take some time and go down and enjoy it. So we have a piano downtown now that anybody's going to be able to use, and we'll keep it up as long as it's possible. And with that, someone's calling me, so I'm going to mute it and just make sure that this is someone not maybe trying to get into the meeting. Stand by. Sorry, that was related. They're here to join us in the meeting. So right now I'm going to ask persons who wish to address the mayor and council on a specific agenda item should register their request at this time. Anybody who's registered or here for a public meeting is not required to register until I declare those public hearings open. And I have two people that had pre-registered, Alderperson Kneebone and Kayla Fillen, who is our current county clerk. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on the non-agenda item? We have 2 pages, so I'm checking to see if there's hands. I don't see any virtual hands. I don't see anybody on the video. So at this point, I will turn it over to Alderperson Kneebone. Alderperson Kneebone, you have 3 minutes. And when you're done, I'm going to ask that we move right into Kayla Fillen. I have to go let someone in the doors here. I'll be back in a minute. Alderperson Kneebone, you have the floor.
Thank you. Alder Nabel in particular might be missing the sounds of Suzuki violins and pianos around campus. This would have been the first week of the American Suzuki Institute, which brings a whole lot of people to Stevens Point. Because of the coronavirus this year, they decided to do it online. So they're having a virtual institute called American Suzuki Institute at home. This morning at 9 o'clock, I watched a lecture by Dr. Suzuki when he was here about 40 years ago. Heard a fantastic teacher training video with 2 teachers in Ohio. They have all the teachers volunteered their time to make training videos and playing videos. So if you've got some time during the day, log on to their website, register. Everything is free. There's some great music, a virtual orchestra, and just enjoy the American Suzuki Institute at home and then back at Stevens Point next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Kneebone. Kayla Fillen. Are you able to unmute? There you go.
Can you guys hear me? Excellent. I figured it out this time. Still getting used to the Zoom meeting. So yeah, so I'm Kayla Fillen. I'm the current Portage County Clerk. I'm also a candidate for the upcoming August election. So that's kind of why I'm here tonight. I just wanted to tell everyone about myself and encourage everyone to go out and vote in August and hopefully vote for me. So as I mentioned, I'm the county clerk. I was appointed in January of this year to serve out the remainder of Shirley Simonis's term after she retired after 40 some years in the clerk's office. So I started back in the clerk's office though in November to train with Shirley. So I was here for a couple months to train under her and learn many things under Shirley. Prior to coming to Portage County, I worked for the city of Appleton, and I was the deputy city clerk, and before that, the election clerk. So I just gained a great deal of experience with local government, a lot of election administration experience, and that helped me lead the county and support the municipal clerks through the recent April election. That was pretty challenging, but I think we successfully made it through given the circumstances. I've also been working with the county board over the last 7 or so months, and I've developed a great relationship with them. And I think, you know, that is a very important thing to have, is that great working relationship, especially when we tackle some difficult issues. I've also developed a great working relationship with the municipal clerks. And I think, not to put Carlin on the spot, but I think I've just had a great connection with a lot of the clerks, and I'm there to support them. And so again, I'm just here to encourage everyone to go out and vote. I do feel like I am the best or the most qualified candidate for the position, so I do hope to have your support. If anyone does want to ask me questions at a different time, I'm always happy to talk to anyone and be there to answer any questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we appreciate everything you do as our county clerk, along with Carlin Krautkramer, our city clerk. The elections get to be extremely crazy, and we appreciate your dedication and more importantly, the accuracy to the best of our ability to make sure that those people who want to vote have the ability to vote, and making whatever accommodations we can to make sure that happens. So thank you.
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay, with that, the speaker list is exhausted, and we will move on to the consent agenda, which begins on page 4 of your packet, Alders. Is there anyone wishing to pull anything from the consent agenda? President Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got to look at the agenda, trying to look at the different screens here. The first one, I'm not sure if it's so much of being pulled. I think I'd like some additional information from Chief Finn. It's item 6 on the Police and Fire Commission meeting. Some background information I think would be helpful for council on the creation of that training officer and its non-fiscal impact on the budget. And the other thing I'd like to pull, at least for a vote, is the item 2 on the Personnel Committee meeting minutes, the elected versus appointed. I know we had the Personnel Committee, of course, voted on this. We've had a lot of discussion, but I think this is important enough to ask all alders to weigh in on. So that's what I've got.
Okay, those two. Alder Shore.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to pull for discussion the item renaming the Public Protection Committee.
Okay, and that is the Public Protection item 3. Okay. Anything else that people wish to pull?
Mayor Alder Kneebone here.
Yes.
I'd like to pull from the public protection meeting number 2, the appeal of denial of operator's license. I'd like to get more information from the police department if that would be possible. Thank you.
Absolutely. Is there anything else anyone would like to pull for further discussion or a separate vote? Okay, so just to recap, we are not going to pull item number 6 from the Police and Fire Commission. We're just going to ask the chief to talk about the training officer, but we are going to be pulling Personnel Committee item number 2, which is elected versus appointed for the comptroller, treasurer, attorney, and clerk. We are pulling the appeal of a denial of an operator license from the Public Protection, and we are pulling the renaming of Public Protection to Public Policy and General Government. Those 3 items will be pulled. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda and approve the consent agenda with those items pulled? Motion by President Johnson, seconded by Alder Zarazua. Discussion on the consent agenda, excluding those 3 items, before I turn it over to Chief Finn for an explanation of the training officer. Seeing none, Chief Finn, could you talk a little bit more about the training officer, please?
Sure. As I said, the Police and Fire Commission meeting and City Council committee meetings, we had a training officer.
Chief, could you speak up just a little bit?
Sure. We had a training officer from 1980 to 2008. And then when they restructured the fire department, we lost a training officer in 2010. When we did this hiring plan, there was a plan that the fire department would, if we got the grant, we would get 3 personnel. If not, we would get 1 personnel each year when the city could afford it. All the other positions in that hiring plan for the other departments have been filled already. After talking to Comptroller Treasurer Laddick, he informed us that the city probably couldn't afford another person in 2021, and with COVID, we might not be able to do 2022. So looking at what we need, shifts of 14, 13, and 13 really don't help us, but a shift of 13, 13, and 13 with a training officer and bringing our training back up to where it should be with the creation of this position, it's more beneficial for the fire department. It will get us closer to an ISO 1, if not an ISO 1 in a year or 2. We got a new training program software that we are instituting right after Labor Day. So this is going to bring our training division back up to par where it belongs. Other than that, if anyone has questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Just a quick question, Chief. I'm assuming some of these are mandatory certification, training sort of things?
Yes, this training officer will cover all fire and EMS. So they'll make sure, and he'll coordinate the training and make sure everyone's up to snuff with our paramedic refresher, all our fighter certifications, our technical rescue skills, and everything else. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so what we're gonna do now, are there any questions regarding that, or are we covered? We're good? All right, thank you. Then we will go in order as they are listed on the agenda. The first item that was requested pulled is the minutes and actions of the Personnel Committee meeting of July 13th regarding elected versus appointed clerk, comptroller, treasurer, and city attorney. President Johnson, I'll give you the floor on that one. It was your poll.
It was my poll, and I don't know that we need a whole lot more discussion. I think that's where you get a saturation point. We've had plenty of that. I'd like to make a motion to reject the motion of the Personnel Committee and in support of appointed treasurer, comptroller, and clerk for the city of Stevens Point.
So for clarification, President Johnson, your motion is to move forward with the appointing of the city clerk, comptroller, treasurer, and city attorney.
That is
that
correct. That is correct. Thank you for restating.
Yep. I just didn't want it to get messed up with the rejection of this and that. The motion is to appoint or move forward with the appointment process for clerk, treasurer, and comptroller and city attorney. Is there a second to that motion?
Alder Kneebone seconds.
Alder Kneebone is seconding. Discussion. Alder Fischler.
I think I'm one of the only alders who hasn't spoken about this yet.
Okay.
I was kind of waiting to see how, to see both sides of the coin. And honestly, I understand both sides where it's important to have democracy and allow people to choose, based on, people who are competing against one another to lead. And I think it's really important that we have democracy. On the other side of the coin, these two positions are really highly specialized, and it's not like just the prerequisite is that you live in the district and are age 18 and have a desire to serve. I think we really need to take a look at this and what happens if we don't have someone qualified. I think it's important to really think about what we would do if we didn't have someone qualified to take a look at these positions or to go out and do that. On the other side of the coin too, I also see how Comptroller Laddick and Attorney Beveridge have been doing a really great job. Is it really necessary to make them go out and I guess elicit votes each time that they're up for re-election? So I guess that's my point on the topic, and just want to add my 2 cents in.
Thank you. Any other discussion? For the record, I got a call from Alderperson, or a text message from Alderperson Slawinski stating that he was out of a connection area and he was going to try and connect when he got some signal. Alder Jennings.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. I am very ambivalent about this issue because I can see positives and negatives to both sides. But when I look at other cities, I do not see these positions being elected. I did not do an exhaustive examination, but looking at Madison, for example, these positions are not elected. I was also sort of intrigued by the conversation last time when somebody asked if they could remember an elected official who, at the staff level, who had done a poor job. And everyone, to me, that sort of proved the point, because I know that everyone can think of an example where that was the case, but no one would say it. And that's as much as I'm going to say about that. But that sort of proved the point to me. And so I lean towards the appointed, even though there definitely are disadvantages to that. However, I think the expertise absolutely needs to be there. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Alder Morrow.
One of the comments that I have is a part of public service is really kind of is really people who really have a calling for it. To be elected as a city attorney and as a comptroller as well, where they can make more money on the outside than they could doing civil service. I mean, that there is saying how much of a commitment they have to public service, and with all the hoops they have to end up going through to be elected, and so on. And then you have somebody who really has a passion for what they end up doing. Really, it's not just a job. It appears to be something that they really like, especially everything that attorney that our city attorney has been going through the past few months as well. I mean, that right there is saying a lot. And what Corey has to end up doing to try to balance the budget and try to make as many folks as happy as he can, which you really can't, just because of the nature of that job. And that shows the level of commitment that you have, that you really have for this job and for this elected office. I think the system we have now works especially for a city our size.
Alder Shore, and then we'll get back to President Johnson after everybody's spoken at least once, who needs to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. I went into this issue with an open mind and hope that my write-up of the question was helpful. What was most helpful in ultimately helping me make up my mind was the line of questions that I pursued with Comptroller Treasurer Laddick, because the thing that interested me most was, well, what's the danger here? I really feel that to make a change like this, to take something out of the democratic elected arena, that there has to be a reason. And so I was interested in whether, from that perspective of labor supply and suitable people, whether that was potentially a problem. And that's why last week I asked the Comptroller Treasurer whether he thought in our community, without being able to promise, obviously, but whether he was aware of a good handful of people who might be suitable. And when he said that he did feel like there were people there that would be a good match, that for me made up my mind to oppose the change. Thanks.
Alder Zarazua.
And I've stated this before, but I do believe in democracy. I feel we have some very important positions that are chosen by the people. And I guess it's also that I feel, because this is a big decision, I don't feel that it's something that it feels like a overreach of power by the council to make this decision. And I know that's kind of some strong words to say, but I don't feel like we 11 people should be able to decide that for the city. If people want to still be able to elect these positions, I think they should. Thank you.
Alder Kneebone here. I have a comment. Having worked under a city manager / city administrator type of government in the city of Dallas, it worked very well. All the department directors were on the same level playing field. If you think that these three positions are that important that they need to be elected, why isn't the park director elected or the public works director elected? Those are very important positions in the city, just as important as the attorney or the comptroller or the clerk. And we hire those people because they have the expertise that we want. I think in order to maintain the highest level of professionalism and accountability, that all of those positions should be appointed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other alders for the first time? Okay, I don't think I see, oh, Alder Leek, sir.
Yeah, I just figured out how to use that hand thing. I've always been using the chat. Oh wait, no, wait. Can I turn it off? Oh, anyway, it doesn't matter. Just in in reaction to what Alder Kneebone said, is I feel that those at least the city attorney and the city clerk are different in their nature. In particular, in that the city clerk is running elections, and I think given the question about election integrity, I do feel that somebody who is running elections should, in effect, not be employed by people who are elected. And yeah, so in that is they should be directly answerable to the people who are, vote to the voters. And I think a similar situation with the city attorney is that, as I said in the committee, is that I feel the advice of the city attorney as someone who is elected and independent is probably is independent. He's not the city attorney is not employed and answerable to anyone but the voters. And that's been my feeling that's an advantage to me personally, because I feel like I can trust that advice against a hypothetical situation where maybe somebody who's employing this person, the city attorney, might be influencing that advice.
Thank you. Any other alders? Okay, before we go back to President Johnson, who asked for it to be pulled, I'm going to make a brief statement, and then I'm going to call on not only our current position holders, but any other department head that wishes to speak. And then we'll give President Johnson the final word in regards to this. But this is not a good idea. The fact that you have a parks director that's hired, a public utilities director that's hired, those are a special set of skills, and important that they have those skills as a hire. The difference you have between the comptroller, treasurer, the clerk, and the city attorney is that they do not report to the mayor's office. And that becomes very important when you talk about what they do. The clerk handles all of the records, the official records of everything that happened, handles all of the voting, how that is done, and things that go through their office in regards to alcohol permits and what have you. It's important that they don't answer to one single person. The comptroller treasurer, who takes care of all of the money going in and out of the city, it's important that they don't answer to the mayor's office because, and Corey can attest to this, as a matter of fact, all three of those positions can attest to this, we don't always agree. But it's not about what I want, and it's not even about what Corey wants, or Carlin wants, or Logan wants. It's about what's in the best interest of the 26,000 plus people that we represent, and that's the boss. That's who we have to answer to, all four of us, when we're making our decisions. So it's not about what Mike wants or what Andrew wanted or what Gary wanted. It's about what's best for the city. The city attorney doesn't give me the advice that I want. He doesn't give me the answers that I want as the mayor. He gives me the answers that are in the best interest of the city. And as I said, sometimes we disagree. And it's important to have that to fall back on, that they don't do what the mayor tells them to do, as in a director position or a normal director position, regardless of who the mayor is. And it's important that we understand that those are the three major offices that should be accountable to the taxpayers of the city of Stevens Point. And Corey doesn't, Director Badoon, for example, doesn't have to answer to Corey. Corey doesn't answer to him. They are autonomous, and they can have civil discussions and actually do what's in the best interest of the city. So I think this is an unfortunate situation that we have to put the people who are doing those jobs on the spot, but I think it's important that we hear from them. I am going to just go through, and if you don't want to speak, that's completely okay. Obviously, you get to do what you want anyway, because you don't answer to me. But I'll start with Corey to see if you have anything to say. Comptroller Treasurer Laddick.
Sure, thank you. So this is something, I can see both sides, and, for the most part, I tried to sort of let the discussion sort of take place without, really trying to interfere or steer it one way or another. The one thing that I will say about this position that I think is really important is that you need somebody in this position who can have some independence, because sometimes you do need a little push and pull, and you don't want to have necessarily a confrontational type relationship all the time internally, but you need to be able to raise concerns when they're valid. You need to be able to have a difference of opinion every once in a while, and sometimes even to give different recommendations to the city council, and let the city council be the ultimate arbiter of some of those things. So I think, with this position, I think whichever way you would decide to go with it, if you decided to not have it elected, then I think the big question that would have to be answered is, okay, how do you maintain the independence of this position? Because I think that that's a lot of the reason why it is elected, and why the people of Stevens Point have decided that they wanted it elected, is simply the concerns that you want to be able to get that unbiased kind of independent financial information that doesn't have all kinds of spin on it, because this position would be reporting to a particular person. So that's, my thoughts on the issue.
Clerk, or yeah, why don't we see the clerk? Do you want to speak?
Sure. I truly agree with Corey and his comments, and I personally, being new in my position, can see both sides of this issue. These are highly skilled positions, and you do need to be knowledgeable walking in performing the duties at a high level. And so I do see both sides, and I'm just glad that I don't have to make the decision. So
Thank you, clerk. Attorney Beveridge, anything you'd like to add?
I've made comments on this quite a few times now, a lot of different meetings. I think that there are a lot of merits to both types of arrangement for that. And frankly, I'm still undecided as to what I think is absolutely the best. However, I think there's also a merit to just the status quo on something like that, because it means we don't have to sort of upset the apple cart by changing it. And if that's the thing that tips the scale one way, okay, that's fine for me. One thing I do want to note with the discussion about the idea of other department heads being elected versus appointed, under statute, the only two that are not currently elected, two positions that we could make elected, would be the assessor and the city engineer. And obviously neither of those are really department heads in the way that we think of department heads, but that's the only ones the statute allows.
Thank you. Any other department heads before I turn it back over to President Johnson? Director Karnowski.
Thank you, Mayor. I've had the pleasure of working for a few municipalities with the weak mayor and strong mayor and administrator positions, and I'll say off the bat, as a department head who's appointed, the council appoints me because the people in your district decided that you're the best representative of local government and you can make the big decisions. I've only been in this position a little less than a year now. I see efficiencies, I see inefficiencies. I think that there are a lot of things within Stevens Point government that could become more efficient through an appointed versus elected in all those departments. But at the end of the day, the directors and the comptroller treasurer and the city clerk and the city attorney, we're all going to work together somehow, some way. Government will still move forward. I think what it comes down to is the efficiencies of that government. Do you want the the government to have this kind of hierarchy of department heads, where some are elected and some are appointed. And I'll tell you that that creates some interesting dynamics internally, as opposed to everybody being on that same equal playing field. So as a appointed department head, you know, we'll make it work. We will continue to make government function as best as we can. As a citizen of the city of Stevens Point, I am all for appointing every department head. And that's my own private opinion. At the end of the day, I think we'll make it work no matter how you folks decide to go. But as a citizen Karnowski and not Director Karnowski, I see just working in that government style of appointed as opposed to elected much more efficiencies that we just don't get here. And I think part of the issue is that you run into that odd tension between appointed versus elected department heads. So that's all I've got to say about that.
Thank you, Director. We'll go to HR Manager Yakush and then Fire Chief Bob Finn. Director, HR Manager Yakush.
So a couple of comments I wanted to make. First of all, I think that it is important to keep those positions as elected versus appointed, because I think Corey's department and part of Corey's job is to watch over the monies of the city. That means that sometimes he has to question department heads and upper management about, you know, purchase orders and things that come in through his department for processing. If he were appointed to the mayor, that might be an interesting dynamic. Not saying this mayor, but we don't know what the future holds. Similar situation for the city attorney, simply because he acts in a legal capacity on behalf of the city. If he felt beholden to somebody that he reported to, that would not necessarily be a good situation, or in certain instances could not be a good situation. And I think I agree with prior comments about the office of the city clerk being independent. I think it was Alder Leek that made the comment that that position should certainly be independent, as you know, it oversees the entire election process. As Mayor stated earlier, is the official keeper of the record for the city. I think that those positions should be remain elected, especially when you consider the form of government we have. We don't have a city manager. We have a obviously mayor council form of government. And I've seen over the 20 some years I've worked for the city, I've seen instances where, you know, Corey had to call into question different expenditures, how the city attorney had to have discussions with, you know, upper management about things. It is different, and I would agree there are pros and cons, and it is a tough decision, but I think based on the form of government we currently have, the status quo would be the best way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Finn.
Can you hear me okay? I wasn't going to say anything, but I wanted to say that Director Karnowski doesn't speak for all the department heads. I feel that it should remain elected. I've been in this position as a chief for 6 years. I've gone toe to toe with Corey. I go toe to toe with Logan. We have civil discussions, and they look out for the city. I work for the people, the citizens of Stevens Point, and we come to a conclusion what's best for the people. I think the way it works now is efficient as a boss. As Director Karnowski said, as a citizen of Stevens Point, I don't think they should be appointed. I think the most basic right we have as citizens is the right to vote. And if this went to referendum and the city and the citizens of Stevens Point voted to go to appointed, then that's what the citizens want. But the right to take the right to vote away from the citizens, I believe is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other directors?
Mayor, this is Scott. Can you hear me?
Doing, yes.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I guess I would just like to essentially reiterate what Director Karnowski said. I think there are, of course, you know, I think everybody sees, you know, different sides. It's a coin to it, but I do believe and agree with them that I think there are some efficiencies to be had just in the, you know, government and how it operates that having appointed, would improve some of the things we do. Either way, as he says, I agree, government is going to continue and to function, but I do believe that there is should be some strong consideration for appointed, just otherwise to bring it, because in my mind, both professionally, personally, it's really about integrity. And, whether we're appointed or elected, we need to be operating with integrity. And if we're doing that, then ultimately that doesn't necessarily matter the means to how they get in. It's a matter of how they operate when they're there. But I just think that operation could be improved if they were appointed. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other directors? Okay, I think we're okay. President Johnson, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks for the discussion, everyone. First, there is nobody who embraces democracy more than me. From the time I was 13 years old, I was out marching and leading marches as a 13-year-old in support of democracy and the right of people to be heard. So do not ever think that this is anti-democratic. However, following on what Director Karnowski said, this is really about, can we function better? Are we being the best we can be? Our sister cities that we use when we do pay analysis, Marshfield and Wausau, Eau Claire, these are appointed positions, and somehow their democracy seems to work just fine, or at least the last time I checked. To the argument that you have to be a dedicated public servant to run for these positions because a dedicated public servant wouldn't choose to be appointed to them, I remind everyone that I am appointed. I am a public servant. I can make double in the private sector. That is the truth. However,
you're referring to your position at Marathon County, not Alder.
That is Alder, yes, as a director of the Marathon County Solid Waste Department. I've actually turned down opportunities for more than double. I've rejected those because I am a dedicated public servant to serve the people of Central Wisconsin with the finest solid waste and recycling services anywhere. So you do not have to be an elected official to have that sort of dedication. I see it with my colleagues at Marathon County, and I see it with the appointed officials in the city of Stevens Point and at Portage County. This discussion is about, can we do things better? This isn't about Corey, and it's not about Logan, and it's not about Carlin or this is not about personalities. We are fortunate to have qualified individuals. This is about, and everybody seems to be stuck on personalities. Get rid of personalities. Because if we're building our capacity around personalities, we're doomed to fail. We have to build this around the position and the things that we need to run a thriving, growing city with a great future. So this was never about shutting down democracy. It was never about questioning the credentials of anyone currently serving. It was never about questioning whether the people would make the right choice. It was about, could we as a city do things better? And in looking at communities with whom we compare ourselves, and we do that for wages, so it seemed to make sense to have this discussion as it relates to the positions that are not elected in those cities. So again, I thought it important enough to pull. I appreciate what everyone must think. This is a long, drawn out discussion and want to get rid of it. But anyone who knows me know that I don't go down without a few punches. And this was an opportunity for everybody to vote. And one last thing, it is within the purview of council to make these decisions. It is not overreach. That's why we were elected, to make the tough decisions. You lead by being courageous, and sometimes stepping out in front is scary, but you know it's the right thing to do. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Alderperson Jennings, who said she had another comment, and then over to Alderperson Morrow.
Yes, I've heard a number of comments about democracy, but maybe what's not been stated explicitly is the politics of this. So elected officials who want to remain in their position, in other words, for many election cycles, will make decisions in their own best interest. In other words, their own best interest is being reelected. Now, let me take a very simple example, but one that everyone will grasp onto. Let's say no one likes taxes, right? No one likes to have their taxes raised. But let's say we have to do that to balance the budget, to do the services that we need to do. Yet we have, let's say we have a comptroller treasurer who wants to stay in their position, and the voice of the people is do not raise our taxes. So therefore, do we continue down a road of decline as a result of that? I'm not saying that's what's happening now. This is an example, but one that should be very clear about the politics of this, and that's what I wanted to add to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. And Alderperson Morrow.
Sean, you're muted.
To carry on with that, with that example as well. Well, if someone is appointed by the mayor, and the mayor says we need to cut the levy, and Corey's like, we're already broke. It's the same thing, and so so that argument really doesn't seem to carry much. And with some alders who are concerned about the power of the mayor's office now, if we give that power, if we give that appointing authority to the mayor, he'll be able to appoint whoever he wants. And if he wanted to appoint a couple yes men or yes women, he or she would be able to do that. And I think that separation of powers is the biggest thing that we have. Like if the mayor wants to end up doing, if the mayor has a decision that he wants to make, and the city attorney's like, that's illegal. You're not able to do that. Or the mayor wants to buy, if the mayor wants to buy something, and Corey's like, we can't. I mean, they are not worried about losing they're not worried about losing their own jobs. So I don't think that we should be giving the mayor more authority than he already has. I think we would be setting ourselves up to be having severe problems. I think, and because Corey handles all of the money. I mean, that's like a huge part. And so mayor can't pressure him to do things, and with the attorney as well. That's what democracy looks like. And I'm kind of surprised that some people are going for this, when one of the biggest issues that we've seen is like some people have a lot of concern about the power of the mayor's office now. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments?
Alder Kneebone here. I'd like to just make one more comment.
Alderperson Kneebone, go ahead for another time. Yes.
The discussion about yes men and people worried about their jobs, bear in mind the council has the ultimate authority to approve or deny appointments. If an appointed department director has an issue with the mayor, the elected mayor, I suspect that there would be some sort of process by which the council would be made aware of that issue, and if need be, step in. But in a city the size of Dallas with over 1 million people, this worked very well. It's worked very well for years. And when the voters were asked to change that back to an elected official, they declined. They appreciated the professionalism of the people that were placed in those positions. And it seems to me anybody that's elected can fall victim to campaign donations that might change their mind on a vote or an election or a legal point or a financial incentive for a dealer, a developer. There's all kinds of ways for the system to be abused. It seems to me it's more open to be abused by elected officials than by appointed officials. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, clerk, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a motion, I believe, by President Johnson, seconded by Alderperson Kneebone. Is that correct?
Motion by Johnson, second by Kneebone.
Okay, and the motion before you is to move forward with the appointment process for the comptroller treasurer, city attorney, and city clerk. If you are in favor of moving forward with appointment, you will vote yes. If you are opposed to that appointment, vote no, and I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
Morrow.
No.
Fischler.
Fischler.
Aye. Dalton.
Dalton. No.
Leek.
No.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Slawinski. Not present. Johnson.
Aye.
Zarazua.
No.
Nabel.
Aye.
Shore.
No.
Jennings.
Aye.
That is a tie vote, 5-5.
5-5 vote. In the event of a tie, the mayor of the common council gets to vote, and I vote no. With a 6-5 vote, the motion fails. Moving on to the next pulled item is the appeal of the denial of the operator's license. That was the public protection minutes, item number 2. And I believe Alderperson Kneebone, you had pulled that item.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think I voted in favor to allow him to have his license because of something that I heard about denying him a job. However, he can work as a bartender without an operator's license. So we wouldn't be denying him a job. And it seems to me that everything we've heard from the police department, and perhaps Chief Zenner could throw some more information on this, but it seems to me like we're rewarding bad behavior here. And I've really had some second thoughts about my vote. So I'll let it go at that for now. Thank you.
Chief Zenner, do you have any information to add?
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. One thing I would like to bring up on this, and I did not know it at committees, I wanted to do a double check on a driving status of Mr. Wanta, and I learned that his driver's license currently is revoked. Also, his occupational license is revoked due to a failure to obtain an ignition interlock device in his vehicle.
Chief, this was a 4th offense OWI, right?
Correct. I had, not looking at that, let me double check.
I believe
he had, it is his 4th
offense.
offense. I was looking at when his prior offenses have been.
Yeah.
And there has been some significant time in between each one of those.
Chief, even though there was significant time, did any of those involve any other people? Was there an accident or anything?
The last two of them, one was a hit and run accident, and the one before that was accident with injury.
And just to recap, the person in question who's applying for this license is currently not even in compliance with the conditions that were set forth. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Alderperson's questions, comments, or a motion? Alder Nabel.
Thank you. Am I on? I can never tell. Sorry, I'm unmuted. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Alder Kneebone, for bringing this forward, to enlighten us more on this. And I really appreciate that you did that. And also, Officer Chief Zenner, thank you for taking the extra work and looking into that. I really appreciate it, and I have a lot different feeling about this with that information. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I see the applicant here. We'll give the applicant, Mr. Kevin Wanta, the floor, and then we'll go to Alderperson Jennings. Mr. Wanta, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. About that IDD, I had it put in since the day after my court date was over when a judge made me get it. But the state of Wisconsin said I didn't need it because I had no license to drive on it, so I did not have to have it in my truck. I had it in for 11 months. I just took it out last month because it was a waste. I was paying $90 for just to let it sit in my truck. And the state of Wisconsin said since I wasn't getting credit for it, there was no need to have it in my truck. I don't have a license. That's just in case when I get my license back, I have to have it for 3 years.
Thank you. Alderperson Jennings.
Yes, following Alder Kneebone's comments, gentleman is not denied work. I remained pretty quiet on this when it came through public protection because I chair the committee. However, my brother was hit by a drunk driver. I have very strong opinions about this. This individual has felony charges related to drinking and driving. I motion to deny the operator's license. Deny the appeal of the operator's license.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Alder Fischler, I will second that.
Seconded by Alder Fischler. Further discussion? Alder Dalton, you have your hand up.
Alder Dalton, I would just like to state for the record that I do not find the applicant's record to be substantially related to the license and do not support the denial.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Alderperson Leek here. I don't know if I can put this. He gave the phone number of his parole officer, Officer Jessica Patch, and I actually was able to confirm with her that she did not have a problem with his working again. I'm not sure about the Little White Inn. It is little. I've driven by it and never been in there, so I believe the employment question was contingent upon there being another licensed bartender there, and it's a little place. I don't know if there ever would be two people on duty at that time. Those are just my two comments, my two points there. But I do think the extra information is helpful. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Seeing none, the motion is, Alder Short, sorry.
Yeah. No, just on that issue of, because the city attorney in the last discussion spoke to this question of related to the duties. Could we hear from him again on that in light of what we've been talking about here?
Sure, I think so. Attorney Beveridge.
Sure. The statute says not just related to, but substantially related to. Now, I can't sit here and tell you for sure one way or another whether a fourth offense OWI conviction is substantially related to a bartending license. But I certainly think that you can come up with examples where a conviction would be clearly substantially related. I mentioned a few at the committee meeting. You know, if you had somebody who was convicted of something where it was fraud or theft or an abuse of trust, you could say very confidently that that is substantially related to licensure, where you're going to be a fiduciary or you're going to, you know, be handling other people's money. Or if it's something related to child abuse or any sort of crime involving young victims, that would be undoubtedly substantially related to licensure to operate a child care facility. I think that's a little less clear of a connection in this type of case. I mean, for instance, you're not driving while you are bartending or anything like that. So I think you know, it's a judgment call for the council to make here. And but that is what the statutory language said is substantially related.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Alder Nebo here. I'll make
We'll go to
one
Alder
more
Nebo and then
comment.
we'll go to the owner of the Little White Inn, Debbie.
Some of you may know and some of you may not know, but I'm a 42-year sober recovering alcoholic. I can't guarantee I won't pick up a bottle tomorrow. I can't guarantee I won't get in my car and drive. All I can say is for the last 42 years, I haven't. Doesn't mean tomorrow is a given. I empathize with Kevin's position. I understand from the point of view of someone who has a problem with alcohol and who, thank God, got a lot of redemption and a lot of support early on. But I think in this case, I don't want to take the chance of putting someone in a bar who has the potential, like I do, which is why I don't go to a lot of bars, to drink again and drive. So that's my perspective. And like Alder Jennings, my sister-in-law's father was killed by a drunk driver.
Thank you, Alder Nebo. I understand you're under Kevin Wanta's login, but if you would, Deb, state your name and address for the record, please, or at least your name, so we know who we're talking to.
Thank you. Deb Zinda, 3416 Sumery Avenue, and I am the current owner of the Little White Inn. And I understand, Alderperson Nebo, your statement with he does not need a license to bartend if there is another licensed bartender on premise. I have 13 bar stools up at the bar. The whole point of having a bartender bartend for you, especially in a small place like this, why would I have someone here to bartend for me if I have to sit and watch his every move? You know, I don't open until later in the afternoon, and there's many times we close by 7, 8 o'clock at night. I very rarely stay open late. It's a very small mom and pop bar. This bar has been here for well over 60 years, and it's been in my family for 40, over 40. Mr. Wanta started bartending before I was even born. You know, he does well behind the bar. He does not drink when he's behind the bar at all. And I can attest to that. And I have cameras. I pop them up occasionally to see who's hanging out there. I mean, I'm sure as most bar owners do. And what really wasn't said about this whole ordeal is the night that Mr. Wanta was picked up, March 8th, 2019, was in fact my 50th birthday. Now you may say this is going to have nothing to do with it, but you know, it's a pretty big deal. 2 days prior to my birthday was Kevin's 60th birthday. So between the two of us, we both celebrated milestones. And quite frankly, and again, this is probably nothing to do with it, my mom passed away at 53. So I was 10 years old at the time. So the fact that I turned 50, you know, it was a pretty big deal. You know, I didn't think I'd live this long. And with Kevin also celebrating his 60th, you know, a little bit of a celebration may have taken place. He knows he did wrong. He understands the mistake he's made. He has complied 100,000,000% with everything that he is supposed to have done. He has not driven at all. When he was coming to work, he was paying someone to actually drive to Rudolph, pick him up, come here, work, and then that same person would pick him up and take him back home to Rudolph at a price of $20 per trip. Now, Mr. Wanta probably wasn't even making $20 a night and some nights in tips. But I can tell you he enjoys the people he sees, the conversations he's had. He has reconnected with some people he hasn't seen in years. Kevin's dad, Hank Wanta, owned Wanta's Whiting Bar on Maria Drive. Or, I'm sorry, Athletic Bar, I'm sorry. Kevin had Wanta's Whiting Bar in Whiting. So between he and his father, they've been in the bar business for over 40 years. And I understand, and he understands he made a mistake. You know, he's paid his dues. You know, I'm just asking for you to reconsider. I mean, this is what he's known his entire life. And you're going to take that chance away from him because of one night that he over celebrated just a little bit too much? Is he going to celebrate like that on his 63rd? No. Like I said, Kevin hasn't had anything to drink. He hasn't driven. He has been a role model since March 8th. Well, let's just say March 9th. So I don't know. I guess I would ask that you reconsider. And, you know, the way Mr. Beveridge had worded it last week, Monday, at the protection plan meeting, I think it was exactly what we wanted to say, but didn't know how. So I guess I'm asking not only as the owner of the Little White Inn, but as a friend of Kevin's. You know, he's 61 years old. He lives in Rudolph. He can't drive. Can you at least give him the chance to come and bartend maybe once or twice a week and see people and get on with his life? Thank you, and I truly hope you take what I say to heart and reconsider your decision.
Thank you. I do have a question for either Clerk Krautkramer or maybe Chief Zenner. The responsible server course that's required for the operator permit, does that course go over when you're able to, or identifying customers who may have had too much to drink and aren't in a condition to drive home, and how to spot those things?
Yes, it does.
It does. So that's significantly related to the job. If someone's unable to determine whether a customer would be intoxicated or too intoxicated to drive, would be related to the job of a responsible beverage server, right?
It is reviewed in the course.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay, we have the applicant who wishes to speak again. We'll turn it over to Mr. Wanta, sir.
Just one more thing I said last week. I've been bartending for over 40 years, and not once have I had a citation for serving a minor or breaking the law in the alcohol sales beverages. And yes, I do cut off people when they're drinking. I know some people have enough because I'm sober behind the bar. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I call one more time for anyone with comments. Clerk, am I corrected that we have a motion?
Yes, we have a motion by Jennings and a second by Fischler. The motion is to deny the appeal.
Thank you. The motion before you, Alders, is to deny the appeal. If you are in favor of the denial, you will vote yes. If you are opposed to the denial, you will vote no, and I will ask the clerk to please call that roll.
Jennings.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Nabel.
No.
Zarazua.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Leek.
No.
Dalton.
Dalton? No.
Fischler.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
I have 7-3. Is that correct, clerk?
That is correct. 7-3.
7-3. The appeal is therefore denied.
That is correct.
Moving on to the next item that was pulled was renaming of the Public Protection Committee to Public Policy and General Government. I believe that was pulled by either President Johnson or Alder Shore. Alder Shore, I will give you the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. So the new name that came out of the committee was Public Policy and General Government. I expressed a concern about how general the term public policy is. You could argue that general government is also broad, but I think in context, it's understood that it's government reform and those kinds of things. What I had proposed as an alternative last week that was rejected was administration and general government, which I had intended to mean the responsibility, the issues related to the committee's jurisdiction, also the city clerks. And the mayor responded to that word administration, well, that's my job. And even though that hadn't been my intention, I understood his point that from the way he saw it, administration was a sort of a synonym for day-to-day operations, which absolutely is his job. So my concern is, in a way, that the term public policy is kind of our job as a council. Right? We've been talking tonight about how the council has ultimate authority over most things, almost everything, and we know that from all the decisions that come before us. So I still have this concern that public policy is really an overarching term that, for me anyway, covers the council's decision-making authority. And so I have a proposal. I'll make a motion and hope somebody will at least second it. I propose instead of public policy and general government, licenses, elections, and general government. I think you can see that the kind of licenses that we've just been discussing, the authority over election administration is a key piece of the committee's jurisdiction. So I hope that you'll consider that as an alternative, and that's my motion, is to instead change the name of the Public Protection Committee to the Licenses, Elections, and General Government Committee.
Thank you, Alder Shore. We have a motion on the floor to change the Public Protection Committee to Licenses, Elections, and General Government. Is there a second to that motion? Seeing none, the motion fails. Back before you is the original item, which was renaming the Public Protection Committee to the Public Policy and General Government Committee. Are there any comments relating to that?
Mayor, Alder Kneebone here.
Yes, ma'am.
In this committee, we often do bring up discussions about ordinances and particular policies that we have. So I think the name is appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or a motion? Alder Nabel.
If I could find my, sorry, I have to unmute. Okay, I'm unmuted. I would like to make a motion for us to approve the wording that we have already talked about, which would be rename it to Public Policy and General Government.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Alder Jennings got the hand up first. Sorry, President Johnson, I know it was your idea, so but we'll give it to Alder Jennings as a second. And any comments or discussion relating to the renaming of Public Protection Committee to Public Policy and General Government?
Mayor, this is the city attorney. Just very quickly, I want everybody to know that if this vote is approved, that it would not be effective to actually make the change. What we would have to do as staff then is bring back kind of a set of documents that would make changes as needed to policies, ordinance, et cetera.
Understood. Thank you. And yeah, there's a lot of references to public protection, so we would have to go through and change the wording on all of the ordinances. I'm confident that our staff will be able to do that, and we'll bring it back at a later date for final approval. But I think the intention here is to move forward with that renaming. Any other comments? Seeing no visual indications, nothing in the chat room, I will call the vote. Clerk, would you please call the roll on this? If you're in favor of renaming, you'll vote yes. If you are opposed to the renaming, you will vote no.
Morrow.
No.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Sarazua.
Aye.
Nabel.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
Okay.
I have 9-1.
9-1.
9-1, the motion passes. We will begin working on and getting all those renamings done, and we will Alder Dalton, I don't understand your comment. Sorry, rough week. We'll give you a call on Tuesday. Alder Dalton.
Sorry about that.
So that was not intended for everyone in the meeting?
For everyone in the meeting? No, it wasn't. Thank you.
Gotcha, thanks. Okay, that exhausts the consent agenda. We'll move on to item number 6, which is on page 90 of your packets, Alder. And that is a joint request by Stevens Point Area Senior High School, Pacelli Catholic High School, and the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point to allow 200 people within Gerke Stadium for collegiate and high school athletic competitions. I'll give you a bit of a background based on our guidelines that we've received from the County Health Department and the CDC. They are recommending that we do not have gatherings of more than 50 people. We have had requests for events and lodge rentals that are in excess of 50 people. And based on those guidelines, our policy has been to deny that. This request was also originally denied because it was more than 50 people. They were informed of their appeal process, and that's what you have before you. I believe there was a joint letter submitted by the athletic directors from each of those 3 facilities. Several of them are joining us, and Director Kramer for the Parks Department, I will turn the floor over to you if there's anything to add.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So essentially, as the Mayor indicated, we've been operating kind of across the board with a lot of our lodge rentals, special events, all the things that we have in the park system, and a lot of different conversations in terms of what ifs as the months have progressed. As you're probably aware, there's been a lot of information about fall sports, and that's why this has been a timely discussion or things that have come forward. The 3 athletic directors from our city's athletic departments reached out. We did have a meeting to try to talk with the health department to see what is being allowed or what isn't. What we were shared with, or what was shared with us from the Portage County Health Department, is because of the guidelines that the CDC has put out about cohorts and the teams being separate, they're going to be practicing during the week. And the organizations like the WIA, the NCAA, the WIAC, the conferences that they plan, that this is something that is not being recommended against by the health department. Essentially, they're saying that they would not want the fans in the stadium if it were to be permitted. The city's involvement, if this moves forward tonight, would be that we would prepare the facility. We would clean the bathrooms. We would clean the complex itself. We would not have any concessions right now based on what the health department has told us. There'd be no fans to sell concessions to, obviously. We would have staff present to do cleaning and be there like we normally do as part of that rental fee in case something were to break electronically or things of that nature. Aside from that, game administration, the actual parameters that happen for the athletic competition do fall in the athletic departments and the schools themselves. So essentially what staff has informed the athletic directors is that based on what the Parks Commission has done so far, this would be in excess of what we were operating with. Based on guidance from the health department, what staff is looking for now is direction on, is this be able to be permitted for the competitors so that the Stevens Point teams can play in Stevens Point this fall? Or are we being directed at this point to say no one keep the facility closed until guidelines would change with COVID-19 conditions? And I do know all three athletic directors are on the call if there's specific questions of their actual schools and how they're operating as well.
Thank you, Director. Did any of the alders have comments or questions for a couple of the athletic directors that are with us? Brad Duckworth is here and Michael Blair. Alder Shore.
So with this notion of cohorts, I mean, from how I look at it, the only thing that would really make that meaningful would be if this is a group that gets, extensive regular testing. It wasn't clear from the proposal that that would be how this is done. So if they could speak to that.
Director Duckworth, I'll let you start out if you want to respond.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for having us. We have been in close contact, as you can imagine, with our healthcare provider, which is Marshfield Clinic. They're the exclusive healthcare provider of Stevens Point UWSP Athletics. We've worked directly with our university health director. We have also followed the guidance of the NCAA and their medical arm, which is a Sports Science Institute, a derivative of the concussion protocols, which now handle all of the overarching medical guidance for the NCAA, and also the American College Health Association recommendations for resocialization. All of those recommendations are calling on testing. We are still in formulation of a plan as a conference of exactly what that will look like. However, the latest recommendation is that everyone in high-risk sports, we're here tonight to ask you about football. I won't divulge into the 21 sports to keep for your time. Football obviously is a high risk, and as of now, the recommendation is that football student athletes, staff, athletic trainers, doctors are tested weekly. So our anticipation, if we proceed with fall, is that our student athletes and the student athletes of the visiting teams, clearly, because they also have to follow NCAA guidance, would have a weekly test. So we are fairly confident. While we are not solely confident, we are confident we will do our very best to keep people safe and the virus at bay as much as we can.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Blair, did you want to add anything additionally?
I think Brad summed it up very well. The high schools probably aren't as stringent with that as the universities are with the testing at this point. But we are obviously trying to follow all the guidelines as well through the CDC and the county and the state. And we are awaiting word from the WIAA and their board of control about the start of fall sports. So we are here tonight, obviously, to try to see if we can use Gerke Field should we get to play football or any fall sports starting here in the next month or so.
Thank you very much. And so basically, and Director Duckworth or Director Blair, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you are doing now is seeking permission to explore the possibility of using Gerke Field for up to 200 people. The details of that have not yet been worked out yet, but if the answer is no, you're going to actively pursue somewhere else to play those events. If the answer is yes, go ahead, we will entertain that. You will come back with a plan following recommended guidelines, I assume. Is that correct, Mr. Duckworth?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We have, we intend, should the NCAA continue its path to allow us to play fall contests in practice, and the WIAC continue down the path of fall sports, we intend to practice 1 mile from the stadium on a daily basis. We will be practicing on the practice football fields behind Quant Gymnasium. What we are here to find out is, minimally, and you see the breakdown in the letter, it takes 190 to 200 people to run a football game. That's no fans, that's just players, officials, so forth. Mind you, a typical college sideline at home has 125 guys on it. So we would be limiting our roster in appreciation for the current restrictions from our normal 125 to 65 in an attempt to keep 60 more people out of the stadium. But yes, we are very versed. We also, we will also be playing soccer contests, volleyball contests, etc., a mile from Gerke Park, of which we have several protocols and procedures in place. We feel that we can hold the event safely, but you're welcome. Obviously, you'd be welcome to all of our protocols and procedures once they're finalized. Yes.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council? President Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my question to the WIAA individuals is why they're not adhering to the June 18th guidance from June 18, 2020 from WIAA. This is on summer activities, but gosh darn, a whole lot hasn't changed since then. And in fact, it's telling on high risk levels, saying no more than 10 people at a time inside or outside. And so it seems as though WIAA has spoken and is advising that no more than 10. 200 is not 10.
Correct. Those advisements were for the July period, the summer, what they would consider a summer activity period. They will be coming out with new guidelines, expectations within the next week and a half. The Board of Control is scheduled to meet again as fall seasons are ready to start in August. So the recommendations that they set out were simply for what they consider the summer activities in the month of July. So we are doing our best to remain safe in July here, and we are following those restrictions with our summer, what we call contact days, where we are limiting all of our cohorts to groups of 10 inside or out, making sure we're social distancing. We've got enough space in between all of our athletes coming and going to our different events on our practice fields at SPASH. And we're obviously hoping that they lift or increase some of those restrictions as we enter the month of August, where sports are officially ready to begin.
Thank you. Alder Kneebone, you had a comment?
Yes, Alder Kneebone here. I've seen a lot on the news with backlogs in getting test results. What will your testing protocol be? Will you test early enough ahead of a game to assure that the participants will be virus-free? And whichever one of the directors can answer, that's fine.
Yeah, we have, this is Brad from UWSP. We are intending, although the guidelines came out for testing to this level Thursday. So that's a little bit of a curveball in terms of the amounts of testing. However, presumptuously that we play in the fall. And that is presumptuously at this point. The intent of this meeting was to find out if we need to find a new home for football. This meeting wouldn't decide whether or not we play football. This meeting would be to decide, will UW Stevens Point have to play all of its contests on the road? Because Gerke Park is the only field in Portage County or the surrounding area that's marked for college football and has goalposts adaptable to college football. So we cannot, based on NCAA rules, we cannot play in a high school field. So that was the purpose. To get into the details of the testing, we will, in order for us to comply with what is being recommended, we will have to enter into a contract, a corporate contract for testing with Marshfield Clinic. And Dr. Chad Giles is our team physician. We've met with epidemiologists from Marshfield Clinic. As you can imagine, the decision to bring 650 athletes back to Stevens Point in 21 sports is an enormously impactful decision, not only for athletics, but on the enrollment of the institution, on the economic drivers in Stevens Point. So I tentatively say, yes, we feel that things will be okay, but this is certainly unprecedented ground. So, and I don't process the tests in the lab, but what I can tell you is that our partners at Marshfield Clinic feel confident that should we enter into this agreement, that they can comply with the recommendations of Sports Science Institute.
Thank you. Alder Nebo, are you done? Because I'm going to move to Alder Nabel. Okay. Yes. All right, Alder Nabel, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. My concern is that not just at Gerke, but it sounds like it isn't approved here for Gerke, you'd go somewhere else. And I would think that it's for the whole county, the whole state, on what the numbers are going to be. I can't imagine they're going to be going down any time soon. And what we've been hearing is things going up further once school starts up and for the fall, and then having other flus at the same time. I'm really concerned that you're looking at having 200 people even anywhere is really going against what any place or the CDC has said is recommended. Isn't it the Packers are thinking about not having playing this year? So I thought I heard something about that anyway, but maybe they're not having their playoffs. Maybe that's what it was in the beginning, but I just think that it's really risky, and I don't see how you can do it. 200 people, it's way against what's been recommended, no matter if you test or not. Thank you.
We'll go to Director Duckworth. I know that we can only control the city facilities. If there was an NCAA certified field next door or across the street from Gerke Stadium, we as a city wouldn't be able to do very much about it. That would have to be at a county level. And as President Johnson can attest, the county is going to be talking about at least a mask mandate on August 5th. So what we're doing, the reason it's before you is because this is a city facility. And to date, our Parks Commission recommendations have been to no events more than 50 people. They're exploring that possibility. Alder Jennings, you had a comment. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped Mr. Duckworth. I'm sorry. Mr. Duckworth, did you want to respond to that?
I did, and I appreciate the concern. I want to acknowledge, and I'm sure you're well aware, since March 18th, I've spent nearly 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, dealing with COVID and intercollegiate athletics. I wouldn't be before you if I didn't feel like our student athletes would be safe, or as safe as they could be. And if they're not safe, we will likely be informing the mayor and the Parks Commission that we are not playing intercollegiate athletics. But as of July, whatever today is, not having Gerke Park available to us for intercollegiate athletics is significantly problematic should we get to the fall. So that I certainly appreciate that. It should also be noted, we have 8 WIAC institutions spread out throughout the state of Wisconsin. There are 2 of us that use public facilities, ourselves and Eau Claire. I spoke with the director of athletics at Eau Claire yesterday afternoon. They're intending to use Carson Park, and according to the athletic director, they have no prohibition. 200 people, similarly to what we're doing, would happen at Carson Park in Eau Claire. Not that we're Eau Claire. The other 8 institutions own their own facilities, and currently all 8 of us plan to play. So that was just the response. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderperson Jennings.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So my understanding is we are not making a decision about whether or not the teams will play. it's just specifically this field. I did have the opportunity, I drove to Madison last week and I listened to an interview on this very topic. So following that long discussion that I was able to listen to, I'm not necessarily opposed to this because the cohort structure, people are really thinking through this. But with the cohort structure, I guess the question I have as related specifically to the university are athletic teams. And I recently retired from UWSP, but I don't need to tell anyone who teaches there that the college teams are among the most notorious in terms of partying, party behavior and whatnot, which is inherently unsafe related to COVID. So the cohort structure will require a lot of monitoring of behavior. So I'm wondering how you will extend that into non-play time, non-academic time for the safety of everybody in the community. And if you've thought through that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I'm proud to report that our women, albeit had the most tumultuous semester in the history of my career, 27 years, had a 3.75 GPA, and our men came in at a 3.15. So albeit they may have a reputation, we are very strong in the classroom, and I'm very proud of that. I anticipate that our college students will be commingling. The university is taking significant steps to do all that it can for all 6,000 students. So this is not something that we're not talking about daily, and not just about football at Gerke Park or volleyball at Berg Gymnasium, keeping people safe as they eat, as they go to class, as they commingle. So I can't guarantee, nor will we be around our student athletes 24 hours a day. That's a problem, I think, in our society in Stevens Point, period. But we are mask requiring. We have I certainly share with you a 35-page return to play document we've shared with the chancellor in terms of what our plan is to keep our student athletes safe while we have them. We do have expectations of what our Stevens Point athletes do, not only in the community, in the classroom, and on the courts and fields. So to respond to you, is it possible that they will have a part, I guess to respond to the party question, I guess it's certainly possible. COVID education is part of our return to play. The close nature of social gatherings will certainly be addressed, and in an attempt to keep our student athletes safe, we will be testing the group of student athletes of concern to the council is football, and they will be tested on a weekly basis. So we will know weekly whether they're COVID positive or not.
Thank you.
One more thing there. If they don't have this field, they will be driving around a lot more to other places, correct?
If they play, that is what it sounds like, yes.
Yeah, we would have no choice, if I could respond, Mayor. It is a requisite. If we are going to be a member of the conference, it is a requisite that we play the games that are scheduled. So part of the reason of being on the agenda in July, I think it's the 17th or 18th or whatever the date is today, I lose track very quickly. It's every day season's the same, as opposed to 1 month from now, is that we're going to have to work on alternative plans. And just because we play somebody at home doesn't mean that their facility is available for us to go on the road. So all three of us, John, Mike, and myself, all said the same thing. We need to know at least if there's an appetite for the city to host football at Gerke Park, or all three of us will be sending our teams out of the community to participate. I don't think we have any other choices.
Thank you, Director. We have, let's see, Alder Zarazua hasn't spoken yet. Then we'll go to Alderperson Nabel, who's got her hand raised, and President Johnson. So Alder Zarazua, you have the floor.
Just a follow-up question to that. So, well, I guess you said there's only one other school that's using a city's facilities. But then do we have more potential then to have more games here than what we would in a normal season if we do allow play on our field?
Director?
Not for UW Stevens Point. I won't speak for Mr. Blair or if Pacelli is on the call, but UW Stevens Point would play only our regularly scheduled home contests here.
Okay, thank you.
For the high school teams, there is always, if we have a season, there's always that possibility of a playoff game or two if your team qualifies, depending on how well the season goes, to have a couple of extra games at the high school level. But
thank you. I think what the alderperson was getting at is, if you are not allowed to play at Gerke Stadium, Community Stadium here at Gerke Park, you would be traveling somewhere else to use their facilities. What I think the alderperson is asking is that if we allow you to play here, are we going to open ourselves up to the potential of other schools who cannot use their own facilities or their city's facilities to want to come here and play as well? Do either of you know if that would be the case, or is it just going to be Spash's, Pacelli's, and UWSP's regular games, not allowing others to use our facility that aren't playing you?
Mayor, this is the city attorney. I can jump in real quickly there. We have pretty extensive written agreements with all of these, whether it's UWSP or the school district or anything. So if any other team who's not associated with anyone we already have a contract with, they'd have to put all that together, and it'd be pretty short notice at this point.
Thank you. And that's what I thought. I'll turn to Director Kramer as well if he had something to clarify.
The only thing I will add is that in pre-COVID, we did rent the facility, say if it was a neutral site for a playoff game. However, very similar, the Park Commission addressed this with local youth organizations. They stated Stevens Point area teams were allowed to begin. So essentially what the Park Commission could do, or the council obviously, is say we're going to allow these three for their hosting of games, but we're not going to rent the facility for the others, because otherwise we do have a pricing chart. And should we want to have a neutral site or things of that nature, sometimes we do have, pre-turf being as popular as it was in surrounding areas, we would sometimes have people call and say, hey, our field's in rough shape, we'd rent it. So that is a piece that could be included if this is approved or not approved tonight.
Thank you. We do have a spectacular facility in Community Stadium. Alder Nabel, I will turn to you, and then we'll get to President Johnson.
Had a hard time getting my mute off. I just want to say is that I live near the campus, and there's a group of guys that are football players that are nearby, and they've been partying every weekend. And I finally asked them if, why none of them are wearing masks or why they're not distancing themselves. And a couple different answers came back. One was the girls that were there said, oh, they were tested last week, so they're fine. And I said, but that doesn't mean you can't get it tomorrow still. And then the second thing was the guys were like, well, we don't have to worry about it. We have immunity to it because we have the, what do you call it? I can't think of the word.
Antibodies?
Antibodies already since February. And all I could think of was like, there's no proof that how long those last, and that there's no proof that you don't get it again. And I think some of this with the education part of it, it just scares me, is that group of mentality of thinking that, well, we've already had it, so we don't have to think about it or worry about it again. And there's a lot of that. And I've been seeing a lot of that with the youth that are around. So it just makes me nervous having 200 people on a football field at the time when we are looking at numbers going up. So I think we'd end up with, I know they'd have to go somewhere else, but I think there's other places that are going to start saying no too. Thank you.
Thank you. President Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is deeply disturbing to me. So the idea of cohorts is only as good as the cohorts being separate from other cohorts. And there was a fair amount of discussion online about that today, that the cohorts are not independent of one another, and in fact can cross-contaminate one another. Specifically, and I guess this would be for Mr. Duckworth, I'm assuming that the campus doesn't have the money to test all of the students attending UWSP, just the athletes. So therefore, any interaction that they have with other students, friends, roommates, girlfriends, boyfriends, we haven't a clue because there just simply isn't enough money to test all of those students on a regular basis. Now, I've looked at the protocols for the campus. I've been adjunct faculty there. I still have quite a few contacts, and I've been reviewing, you know, all of the cleaning protocols for all of the rooms and the masks and the distancing. That's not where the problems are going to be. The classrooms are going to be well managed. The professors and faculty will be working to make sure that happens. It is everywhere else. And so the athletes are special and get testing because we're concerned about their close contact with one another. But the rest of the students, who we also value as a community, don't have that same level of protection.
Thank you for the question, and it certainly is a concerning piece. There will be testing available on campus. Students who show any sort of symptoms will be able to go to our campus health, but the purpose of the weekly testing is because of the intimate nature of athletics. So social distancing, if we are going to return football or volleyball or soccer, and the 600 plus student athletes that come along with that, then the recommendation from Sports Science Institute in Indianapolis is that we test them weekly. I'm not positive right now, as of tonight, that we will do that. I'm not positive that we will return athletics because of the requisite that's coming out of Indianapolis and the cost associated with it. That came out Thursday. If we're going to come back in fall, then that's the requisite, and then we would have to comply with that. That's a decision that 8 chancellors have to make, the league chancellors. So yes, in some ways, our student athletes will be subject to testing on a weekly basis. Some may call that special. If you've had a COVID test, I don't know that I'd want to do that on a weekly basis. I'm not sure that that's a special treatment. That's a pretty intrusive test. So that is the requisite if we're going to play. Yes.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could just reaffirm, Portage County Health Department, Health Division of the Health and Human Services Department has advised at what number of in a gathering?
Director Kramer, it's 50, right? Less than 50 or 50?
So 2-part question. Executive Order 1 says 50, but they were on a call with us earlier last week, and they said based on the CDC guidelines and the cohort nature of this athletic event, football in the question here in Gerke Stadium, that they were not advising against it. In terms of the number, they would permit the 200, as long as there was no crowd, no concessions, and there'd be a plan in place, similar to what Director Duckworth was speaking about with the officials, the game managers, the teams, etc.
And then, Mr. Mayor, if I may follow up.
Yes.
Have there been other large events that we've denied?
Yes.
So out of fairness to those other events.
And I will tell you that out of fairness to those other events, we had originally told the Pride Festival, for example, that they were going to be denied based on the Parks Department and Parks Commission policy. But once this came up, they asked for an appeal initially as well. We told them that they would be able to appeal through the normal process, which would be the August round of meetings. They were okay with it because their event wasn't until late August. There was another lodge rental that was over 50 people, Director, and we had told them that it was against policy and we weren't going to do it. To be fair, when this came up and the special consideration at council, we offered it to both of them, and both of them said, no, they're not going to appeal. Is anything to add to that, Director?
No, but we have not athletics, but special events. We have issued basically the guidelines and the minutes of our meetings. So there has been several special events throughout the last year, ours included, Riverfront Rendezvous, that has been impacted by the 50-person. That was pre-guidelines for the fall. I think, as we all know, the last several weeks, and as we continue to go forward, this environment's continued to change. So there has been a lot of conversation. Similarly, that's pretty much all my office is doing right now, is trying to monitor and follow and communicate with these group users and organizers as we're trying to navigate through the different guidelines that are coming out.
And just for the record, that would not affect any of the other policies that the Parks Commission has put into effect. It would just be, in this case, allowing athletics at community stadium. Alderperson, I'm sorry, President Johnson, anything to add?
I was just going to make a motion.
Oh, actually,
Unless you want to go, if you want to go to everybody.
So I would ask that we allow her comment first.
Absolutely.
Please. Alderperson Kneebone.
Thank you, Alder Kneebone here. I love football, and the only reason I hope it's not played this fall is because I have had bad luck on my fantasy teams the last few years. It seems to me that I'm a firm believer in science. As a graduate of the College of Natural Resources, I had enough science classes to know that truth is truth and facts are facts. It seems to me that if the powers that be that oversee college and high school athletics can come up with a safe way for athletes to participate, I think that we should allow them the venue to do that. It's an open air stadium. There won't be any fans. There won't be any concessions. It will just be the individuals that are there to have to run the game. And it seems to me, why should these teams who want to participate and who will follow the rules that the coaches lay down, why should they be punished and put themselves at greater risk by traveling to another venue? So it seems to me, given the unique nature, particularly of college football, that the least we can do, if they're allowed to play safely, is allow them a venue to play. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from alders? I don't see anything. President Johnson, I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the discussion. However, my motion is going to deny the request. I may not get a second on that, but I feel strongly that our deep desire to get to a normal that isn't here is just risking lives. So
I'll second. Alder Shore seconds.
Okay, we have a second by Alder Shore. So the motion is from President Johnson to deny the request for the use of community stadium at Gerke Field for Spash Pacelli and University Stevens Point ball games, not allowing the 200-person request. Been seconded by Alderperson Shore. Alderperson Shore, did you have a comment? Your hand's up.
I do. Thank you, Mayor. This is not an easy decision, but I think the right thing is to deny the request. I understand the point that something might take place elsewhere, regardless of our decision. But we are making a decision within that larger context. I think we're all aware that the spike in this community happened when students celebrated graduation. I serve on the Parks Board. The fact that this is football and not baseball is very much pertinent here. The athletic directors themselves are aware that this is a sport, and in the Parks Board, we've been looking at different sports and we've been mindful of that. And the athletic directors have acknowledged that this is a sport with a lot of contact. And as it regards testing, the point isn't whether testing is seen by the students as a privilege or not. all of this would be easier if we were already in a place where there was a lot of testing. There'd be less disease, for that matter. But I think President Johnson's point stands about the relationship between testing in the cohorts and testing more broadly on campus. And not sure I understood the point about the expectation of programs to participate. I heard a reference to that the onus would be on programs to take part and to fulfill the schedule, right? I wasn't happy to hear that. Maybe that was a reference to the decision within the conference. I heard it, at least to my ears, sort of a NCAA lurking in the background of that. And I'll say that I was a Division I athlete myself in 3 years of my college career. But, over time, as I've learned about the NCAA as an organization, I can believe and am inclined to that the programs on this campus have integrity. But I'm not accepting in that in that backdrop of kind of institutional credibility. I know too much about the NCAA to feel that that's an authority that should be taken at face value. But yes, there's science behind the notion of corporate. I understand the rigors that there would be if a contract had been entered into with Marshfield Clinic. But I can't feel good about a decision like this when there's just so little testing generally, just where the overall picture is appalling in terms of more broadly, needing testing to know what we need to know to keep the community healthy. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to deny the request to have 200 people allowed within Community Stadium at Gerke Park. It's been seconded by Alderperson Shore. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Director Blair.
Yeah, first of all, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody and Mayor for putting us on the agenda tonight. We do truly appreciate this because our seasons are scheduled to start fairly quickly. And, speaking on behalf of what, Brad Duckworth and John Rafflick and what we talked about last week with the county health supervisor, we're not looking to put stress on anybody in this situation. We really were just looking for a way to minimally, at any minimal level, be able to utilize our home football field if, and that's a big if right now, if our organizations allow us to play. The WIAA could tell us as early as this end of this week or beginning of next week that there are no fall sports, or fall sports are being backed up by a month, or they're going to be pulled totally. That could happen. So when we met last week with Mr. Kramer and the county health supervisor and had that discussion of safety, how can we do it to be the safest way possible? No spectators, no parents, minimal rosters on the field for our teams, and then really trying to do our best to have social distancing on the sidelines with doctors, trainers, managers, social distancing in the press box for just essential game workers, people to run the clock, an announcer, no concession stand. We were trying to just get this thing down to a bare bones be able to play and use our home field. So it wasn't meant to cause any stress. We realize you've had other groups wanting to get in to use city areas, city parks, and you've had to uphold that 50-person restriction. I would just go on to say that I know UWSP, SPASH, and Pacelli would use every precaution necessary and be as organized as obviously we can to try to prevent any further positive coronavirus tests and in the area. So again, thank you for at least hearing us out and taking a look at this. But it really just is, we were just really kind of hoping that we would have our home field available at a bare bones minimum if we get to even play at all this fall. So thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. Alderperson Jennings, you had a final comment or question, and then I'll call the roll.
Yeah, and I might need the assistance of the attorney. I guess I'm having a little concerns about the technicality of this motion and vote, because it seems like the motion is to indirectly get at a higher level of authority rather than, because I think we're supposed to be voting on the use of the field, but it seems like the discussion is indirectly getting at something else. So it just feels a little off in terms of what we're actually voting on, but maybe that's
I can touch on that a little bit more. You are voting on the use of the field right now. However, that does not guarantee that the field will be used.
Correct, because the higher authorities at a much higher level will decide, will there be game at all? Will there be sports at all?
And if so, how the guidelines would be. So yes, that is exactly what you're doing. You would be allowing or disallowing the use of the field and turning over the procedure for whether or not they play or under what circumstances they play safety-wise with testing and distancing and whatever else may be involved in the safety. You are turning that over to someone else, yes. City Attorney, I would be happy if you had any other additional comments, you could chime in, but I believe that was the answer.
Yeah, I guess the best way I could answer Alderperson Jennings' question is that it sounded like she was getting more at just is the notion of there being overarching concerns here, independent from the particular exercise of authority that the council is being asked to make. Does that affect legally this particular agenda item? I don't think it does. I mean, there's certainly plenty of different decisions the council makes are sort of contingent upon other factors outside its control. So I don't think this is unique in that regard. I really don't see any concerns there.
Thank you. With that, I don't see any additional people waiting to comment. So I'm sorry, Mr. Duckworth, I see your hand is up. Final comment?
Yeah, I'll make it brief. I understand we're ready to roll call, but I apologize if there was a misconstrued of the requisite comment. The requisite is that if the conference and the 8 chancellors choose to play, the NCAA, the WIAC, and our local Portage County Health Department, and obviously our chancellor and health director and Marshfield Clinic all deem it appropriate. If we can't use Gerke, then it would be the requisite of us to find a place to play. So it isn't that that was the, we have an obligation to the conference presumptuously that we're all playing and under the conditions. It should also be noted, and I appreciate the comment, I guess I feel a little bit similar to the comment of the last stated. This is what I do every single day. I'm not, although I appreciate all the feedback, I'm not asking for you guys to take on the liability of whether we return to play. That will happen. And quite frankly, Gary Garski has independent control of that. So does our university health director. So does our team physician. So does the epidemiologist from Marshfield Clinic. And so does Chancellor Patterson. those are the people who could shut us down locally very quickly. So we're just looking to use the facility, and if not, then we got to make alternate plans. So I appreciate all of your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Last chance for any final comments. Otherwise, I will have the clerk call the roll. Okay, the motion is to deny the request. If you are in favor of the denial, you will vote yes. If you are opposed to the denial, vote no. And Clerk Kramer, please call the roll.
Jennings,
No.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kneebone,
No.
Leak,
Aye.
Dalton,
Dalton? No.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow.
No.
Okay, 6-4.
Mayor, you're on mute yet.
Dang it. Sorry. First time, huh? With a 6-4 vote, the motion to deny is upheld. We will not allow the group of 200 people for SPASH, Pacelli, and UWSP games to play at Community Stadium. Thank you all. Next item is on page 91 of your packet, and that is a resolution designating the proposed boundaries and approving a project plan for tax incremental financing district number 11. I will start with Comptroller Treasurer Laddick, and then we'll turn it over to Dawn if she has any additional comments. Comptroller.
Sure. So the project plan is before you. This is related to the TIF districts that we've been discussing, and really just available for any questions. Otherwise, yeah, I'll turn it over to Dawn.
Dawn, do you have anything to add from Monday's meeting?
Actually, I have really no more to add. I think the council had reviewed this with my colleague Greg Johnson as far as the feasibility analysis and direction to move forward. Since that time, we've created a project plan, which is in your packet. We've organized the joint review board with the city staff to review this, and that meeting was held on July 6th, at which time also the Plan Commission held their public hearing, and there was a favorable outcome from the Plan Commission recommending that the boundaries in the project plan move forward to this venue with the city council. We have not made any changes to that feasibility analysis from when Greg shared it with you. We've just incorporated that into the project plan. So I'm happy to review anything more specifically, but that would be my general comments.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Or if not, I would entertain a motion. President Johnson, I saw a hand.
No, I was just going to make a motion to approve designating proposed boundaries and approving a project plan for tax incremental district number 11.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Alder Shore, second.
Alder Shore seconds. Okay, any discussion there?
Alder Dalton, I have a comment.
Yes.
Yes. I'm looking at our packet, page 124, and it's section 16 of this project plan, where there's a legal opinion advising whether the plan is complete and complies. And page 124 basically has a samples page that is not actually signed and completed by an attorney. So I am, one, not going to be supporting because there isn't an actual signed statement from our attorney that this complies. But I also have my own concerns about the but-for and the orderly development of this for our community.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mayor, I can address that real quick.
Please.
Director Kanowski did forward over to me the documents along with the request for the attorney letters Friday last week, and I've been reviewing those. I expect to have those letters signed and produced either tomorrow or Wednesday.
Thank you. Alder Dalton, did that cover your questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other comments? If not, the motion before you is to accept the proposed boundaries and approve the plan for TID 11 in the city of Stevens Point. Clerk, would you please call that roll?
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Dalton, no.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
Motion passes 9-1.
9-1. Thank you. Next item is on page 126, and that is another resolution designating proposed boundaries and approving the project plan for tax incremental financing district number 13. Comptroller Treasurer, anything to add there?
Nothing to add.
Dawn, anything to add from your side?
My comments for this would be identical to the previous.
Thank you. Members of the Common Council, what are your wishes?
Move approval. Alder Shore.
Alder Shore moving approval.
Alder Leek, second.
Alder Leek seconding. Discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Jennings,
No.
Shore,
Aye.
Nabel,
No.
Zarazua,
No.
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Dalton,
Dalton, no.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-3.
7-3, that motion is adopted. Item number 9 is on page 160 of your packet, Alders. That is some ordinance amendments regarding section 9.05 regarding parking. Director Badoon, anything to add here? Director Badoon?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. No, nothing to add.
Alderpersons, what are your wishes?
Alder Fischler, I'd move to approve the updated ordinance changes.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Kneebone seconds.
Kneebone seconds. Discussion there. Alder Nabel.
Aye, thank you. My question for Director Badoon. I just realized one here and I'm just trying to understand. There's a, on page 160, the last one, on the west side of Phillips Street from College Avenue to Briggs Street. No parking at all on that at all?
That would be correct. That just keeps everything cleaner, simplifies it. There's not much room there for parking as it is. So we figured that that would just be the best approach to utilize that, just the limited space that's there.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, clerk, would you please call that roll?
Morrow,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Dalton,
Dalton, aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Nabel,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Jennings.
Aye.
Okay, 10-0.
10-0. That is adopted, and our agenda is exhausted. We stand adjourned at 9:14. Thank you all very much for attending.
A
video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.